Hi everyone, this is Callie. Thanks so much for being here with me today. I'm going to create a really simple interactive card using the Give a Whirl and its scalloped add-on die. Now this die, if you haven't seen it before, is so fun because all you have to do is twirl this tab here and your scene changes from one into another. How much fun is that? It kind of reminds me of a cross between the Magic Iris and the Magic Picture Changer with the before and after sets. So you get two scenes in one, and I'm going to do a bit of a variation of the technique just because I wanted my two scenes to have the exact same background. So we're going to be using some patterned paper for that, which I'll show later. For the images, I am using the Dandy Day set and its flip-flop set. So I have these little mice with their seed heads and dandelions, and we're just going to do some quick coloring here. What I love about this set is the coloring is really simple. You have your mice, which are small and cute, and then you have these simple seed heads and dandelion stems. So I'm using some greens for the stems, and then I'm using some grays for the seed heads just to give them a bit of color and dimension. I feel like the gray kind of gives it a fuzzy feel too. If you think about what a seed head looks like, there's some color in there, opacity in there. So that kind of helps with that look. For the mice, I'm going to use some bright browns here in the E40s, and then I'll dot their cheeks with some R30, and then I'll finish up with the dandelions with some yellows. Now I'm going to use the coordinating dies and die cut all of the pieces. Now before I set these aside, I'm going to use a white gel highlight pen and just add a few lines to the mice. There's not really much else to add except for to the leaves here. Everything else is too tight of a space for additional lines. And then for these seed heads, I really wanted them to sparkle. So I'm using a quickie glue pen from Sakura, and I'm just adding a dot in the center of the seed head and at the ends of the seed heads. And then I'll dip this into my container of Prisma glitter, and that will just cling to that glue, and it's going to be a really fine, low dimensional shine and sparkle. So I'll go ahead and set these images aside now, and while that's drying, we'll work on our next component, which is the interactive component. So here's a look at the dies. We have the Give It a Whirl dies there at the top, the two circles that you see, and then at the bottom is the scalloped add-on. So as you can see, you can build scenes. There are grass dies as well as hillside dies, but because of the bulk, I don't really want my Give It a Whirl mechanism to catch on anything, so I'm going to avoid using those for now. I'm going to use a stencil later on. So there we have a pull tab as well as a mechanism bar. That bar you want to die cut out of really thin paper. So you want to use really thin copy paper if you can. And that pull tab, you want a stronger piece of paper. So I used a 110-pound piece of Neenah Solar White cardstock. So these will be your two pieces for your two scenes. You have the scalloped piece and the regular circle that's going to be the interactive portion. And you can do your two scenes on those two dies, but because I wanted my two scenes to be exactly alike, I'm using two pieces of patterned paper here from the Rainbow Ever After Petite Paper Pad. And I chose this background because it kind of looks like a sunset, and I really like the blend from that peachy coral color to the yellow. So I'll do two of those, and I'm going to do one white of the scallop because I like that white scallop border. And then when I create my two scenes, I will just add one of those scenes to that white scallop piece. It will definitely make more sense when we go to put these together. Now for the two backgrounds, as I said, I really wanted them to be exactly alike as far as the background goes. So I'm using the grassy stencil, and I'm just going to ink blend some freshly cut grass ink to the bottom of them. And then I can start setting up my scenes using the images that I colored. Now this is the Give It a Whirl template. As you can see, it's a stencil that's going to help me decide where I want my scene to be, and it's going to keep the images inside that circle so that I can properly die cut the mechanism for the Give It a Whirl mechanism. I'm going to use one panel here to kind of create my before scene, which is the dandelion and full seed head. And then for my second scene, I'm doing an after, which is more of the dandelions turning into seed heads, which are now being played with by the mice. When you're creating this, you don't have to do two different scenes like I am here creating a before or after. It can be a bold message on one and then revealing a scene on the second. So it just depends on what card style you're going after and what kind of scene you want on your card. But I feel like the possibilities and creativeness here is limitless. There are so many great designers out there, and it's so awesome to see what people come up with. I'm just finishing up here with my second scene. As mentioned before, this template just really helps me create my scene inside that circle so that I don't have anything that's going to be cut off when I go to die cut these for the mechanism. Before I finish up with my second scene here, I wanted to add some flying or floating seed heads. So I'm using the stamp here and stamping it directly onto the patterned paper. The takeaway before die cutting here is that you don't want any bulk and you don't want any dimension. So you want to glue things or stamp things directly onto your scenes. And that Give It a Whirl template is really going to help keep your scene in the right areas. So I'm going to use my die and die cut these two pieces, and now I have my two scenes. As mentioned, if you want to create your scene right on that scallop piece, you can. If I were ink blending these, I probably would have ink blended right on top of that white scallop piece and used the Give It a Whirl template and just ink blended on the small piece as well as the big piece that you see. But because I use patterned paper, I'm having to glue the after piece onto that scallop piece. I hope that makes sense. So for the front piece, or the before in the case of my card here, I'm going to need a backer. So I die cut another piece in white, and that's all you really need because it's not going to show. It's going to be a part of the mechanism. I took this rounded rectangular piece that I die cut from copy paper, and I folded it in half because it's scored down the center, and I added glue on one side and adhered it to the back of the decorated panel below the slit. So if I was to flip this over, it would be at the top of the slit on the other side. I hope that makes sense. Then I'll take the other piece, add some more adhesive to that tab, and then line it up so that the slit is still free of motion like so. Here, when I open this up, you can see that that tab is what's holding that portion of these two dies together, and then the bottom flap is free. What we're gonna do now is adhere the little pull tab. So this rounded edge here is what's gonna attach to that rounded circle at its slit there on the bottom right. So I'm just gonna place this piece between the two rounds just below that slit so it's easy to line up, and then I die cut the little pull tab indicator here using a scrap piece of that patterned paper, and that's going to match with the sunset from our background. And then these two pieces are ready to put together. I'm going to flip them both over right side down, and I'm going to take that tab, so just the front portion of these two rounds that are glued together. Here I'm pulling out the back so that that doesn't go through the slit as well. So we just want the front to go through that slit. And then we're going to pull this and make sure that our scene goes all the way through and make sure that this mechanism works well. And it might catch if you have a lot of die cuts on it like mine, but after a couple of turns, it'll smooth itself out. Now I flipped it over again, and using some foam strips, I'm going to add some foam adhesive strips all the way around the scalloped edge. This die and the circle die that comes in the original Give It a Whirl die set have stitching lines on them. So I am putting the foam tape directly over that stitching line. So that's an easy guide. You don't want it to butt right up to the mechanism because that's going to prevent it from turning smoothly, so I'm giving it just a tad of space. And it takes about 2.5 pieces of foam strips to go all the way around the circle, and removing the backing off of that foam adhesive strip is going to help me manipulate the foam adhesive strip better so that I can go all the way around without too much finagling. All right, so that's my mechanism and it is done. I'm not ready to stick it onto a background just yet, so I'm going to prepare my background by die cutting a simple and colorful background from the Rainbow Ever After Petite Paper Pad again. I used a small stitched rectangle stackable, and I'm just going to adhere that straight to a top folding note card here, and then I can add my mechanism. So if you wanted to create a full scene on your background, you can definitely do that. I am keeping my card super simple today, and I wanted the focus of my design just to be on this mechanism. And before I add a sentiment, I just wanted to make sure that my scene and my mechanism worked okay. And so I tested it out and it looks great. As you can see, we have that before scene sitting on top, and when I turned it, the after scene was revealed. Now for my sentiments, I'm using sentiments from the Dandy Day set, and the sentiments are curved to coordinate with these simple wavy banners. So I die cut 2 banners to the length of my sentiments, After die cutting the 2 banners on this piece of white cardstock, I temporarily held it down with some tape on the backside. You could attach these pieces to a piece of sticky paper or sticky grid mat if you want to help hold it in place. And then I stamped my sentiments using Wild Rose ink. I like this pink ink because I felt like it was bold but not too bold, and it'll coordinate with the sunset background. Since they are going to overlap the scallop at the top and bottom a tad, I am using some foam squares on the ends of these banner messages and then using liquid glue in the center so that these sentiment banners can attach themselves to the scalloped ring there for some additional support. And then that finishes my card. So I'm just gonna give it a whirl here a couple more times to show you what that reveal looks like and how fun it is. This is probably one of my favorite interactive cards to make because it's so easy. And because I like the after scene better, that's what I'm gonna leave my card at for these photos and how I'm gonna display it before I give it to someone else. I hope you enjoyed this project. Thank you so much for stopping by. If you're interested in any of the products that I use, be sure to check out the links below, and there is a coordinating blog post that you can check out as well. Thanks so much for stopping by and have a great day. Bye everyone.